In this video, I'm gonna give you an in-depth look at the TrackRig, which may be the best audio interface available for worship bands to run a click and tracks in worship. We're gonna talk about the build quality of this device, its various features, as well as how to get it up and running in just a few minutes with Ableton Live. Coming up. My name is Jake Goslin. I'm the creator of churchfront.com, helping you lead gospel-centered and tech-savvy worship. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your worship ministry. Today, I am actually at Loop Community headquarters, and I'm really excited to get my hands on the TrackRig. They made me come all the way here into downtown Chicago to actually mess with one of these guys. Actually, this is a great reason to come here and meet up with these guys, and I'm just really excited to get my hands on this TrackRig for the first time and then show you guys what it's like configuring this with, in this setup, a MacBook Pro running Ableton Live so that we can run tracks as well as automation in worship. And even though I'm here at Loop Community, these guys did not show me how to set this up. They just put this stuff on a table for me. Obviously plugging it into the mixer, that stuff is easy, but in terms of getting this configured with my computer, they didn't tell me what to do at all. So it's plugged in and we're just gonna dive into this process, and I think you guys will see how easy it is. So let's get started. So let's talk about the hardware when it comes to the TrackRig. So you get this box, rectangle thing. It's only a pound, it's super light. And on the front of it, which is very prominent, you have these XLR outputs. So you have 8 XLR outputs. This is great because so many times when you're using a regular audio interface, you only get 1/4-inch outputs, and then you have to convert it from 1/4-inch to XLR to go into your stage box or your mixing console. So this is an awesome feature that shows like this use case for worship bands is what this guy was made for. It's one of the things I love about it. Then on the other side of the TrackRig, we have a power. So it's a 12-volt DC power. So you need to have this power supply for it to function. Then you have a USB host input. This is plugged into whatever computer or device you're using to run your track. So you could be using a MacBook Pro like I am with Ableton Live, or you could be using the Prime app either on your Mac or on your iPad or your iPhone. And then the other cool thing I love about the hardware of this device is that it has a USB hub. I'm a Mac guy, and I'm not that big of a fan of Macs. I feel like they are every single year just trying to disregard all the needs of professional users, but I still use Mac as my choice of a computer, and all of you guys are familiar with how annoying it can be to use dongles all the time. And especially when it comes to having multiple USB devices plugged into your computer, we have like 4 dongles plugged into my computer on a Sunday morning. It's really annoying. Sometimes they don't work. So with the TrackRig, they've really eliminated the need for a bunch of dongles. I feel like I say dongles a lot. Anyways, in our case, this would be great for multiple reasons. Number one, we have either our Looptimus pedal to control and trigger tracks, or we use the Novation Launchpad, so we could actually just plug that in here, and then our device in Ableton Live would just detect that MIDI controller. Additionally, I could just plug my hard drive into this. I'm actually using a hard drive right now that does have USB-C for my Mac, but if I had a traditional USB hard drive, I could just plug it into this hub right here, and that would actually show up on my Mac, and I could pull my files from there, or I could just plug my phone into here. Or if I were a keyboard player that had a USB port for that MIDI controller, I could also plug that into the TrackRig. So putting a hub is a very simple thing, but it's a huge breakthrough for those of us needing an audio interface just to run tracks in worship. And finally, what's awesome about this TrackRig is that it's rack mountable. I know in our situation, this would work great because we have a rack on stage that contains our stage box and other input-output devices there. And this could go right in that rack, and it'd be really convenient setting this up every Sunday morning. So that's the hardware of the TrackRig. I think the build quality is great. They did a great job designing this device. Now let's talk about the software side of things and getting this device up and running with Ableton Live. So here in front of me, I have one of our Ableton Live setlist projects pulled up, and it's at this phase that I would actually even be concerned about starting to assign outputs. Usually I do this on a Sunday morning when we get to church. So the first step I would do is I would go to Live, I would go to Preferences, and then go to audio here, and then under audio output device, this is where I would select my audio output device. So I have the MacBook Pro speakers by default are selected, and what's cool is I actually didn't install any software onto this laptop. Like, this TrackRig is made to just plug in and it's ready to go. Your computer will automatically detect it. So let's click here on our devices, and then you can see Loop Community TrackRig, 0 ins, 8 outs. So I'll select that, and then I'm going to go to output configuration. And then here is where I can mess with how many outputs I need to utilize for my rig. So you can decide to configure this however you would like when it comes to separating these channels of audio for your mixing console. I'm going to do this. So on channel 1, I'm going to do our click track from Ableton. It's Ableton's built-in metronome. Channel 2, I'm going to do our cues or guide track. And then channel 3 and 4, I'm actually going to make that a stereo channel, and I'm going to put all of like my synths and keyboard sounds there. On 5 and 6, I'm going to put all of my electric guitar sounds, and then on 7, I'm going to put my percussive type tracks, and then on 8, maybe I'll put like my more bass heavy tracks. So you can totally figure out what setup makes most sense for you. The important thing is to think about with Ableton, like, do you want it to be a mono output? Do you want it to be a stereo output? And then you're going to tell each track where it needs to go. So I'm going to have my keys and guitars tracks be stereo, because a lot of these tracks actually come stereo, and it'll sound different on the left and right. The way our speakers are configured for our congregation and our space, it actually sounds great to have some things in stereo. So I'm going to press OK here, get out of preferences. So now let's head on over to our first song. And I'm going to expand my tracks here for Grateful. And now I can start going through and assigning these tracks to the right place. And we'll start up here with our click and guide track. So I'm going to go to click, I'm going to go to external out, and as I said earlier, that's going to be 1. And this is just an audio click. I actually keep this one disabled a lot. I'm going to go into Ableton's cue out here. I'm going to make sure that's assigned to 1. But you'll see all these other tracks have already shown up. So it shows them all mono here, then there's also stereo options as well. So you can even choose to have both, you know, the mono and stereo enabled for tracks outputs 3 and 4 or 5 and 6, or you can just do them individually down here. So it's pretty cool how that works. But I'm going to make sure cue out is 1, so that means when this guy is on, it's going to go to channel 1. And then for the master output though, I'm just going to leave that right now for 3 and 4. But you're going to see that the master output in Ableton doesn't really matter that much, because I'm going to be directing and routing these signals from the tracks here to the outputs that I want on the interface. So let's head on over back to the song here. So for cues, I'm going to go to external out. I'm going to select 2. And then for the bass track, I'm going to go to external out. And then I'm going to select, let's do 7 for bass actually. And then for background vocals, I'm going to do, let's put that with the keys and stuff. 3, and then drums, we're gonna go ahead and put that, let's put all the percussive stuff down here at the last channel. And you can see this, you just gotta kind of take your time going through this process and just figure out, you know, what audio you want to go where, but it's pretty simple to set up when you're just under the routing options here for these individual tracks. So and what's cool too is in Ableton Live, you can just select, see how I have 3 guitars right here, guitar 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to select these 3 tracks, and then I'm going to go to the external output, and then I'm going to select 5 and 6 for all those guitars. So I'm going to go ahead and play my session in Ableton Live, and we'll just hear all the different channels coming through real quickly. So here we have on channel 1 is our click from Ableton. Channel 2 is our guide cues.
Chorus 2, 3, 4.
Channel 3 is one side of the keys, pads, and even background vocals. And channel 4 is the other side of that. And for these stereo tracks, I would actually pan these tracks on my mixing console so we really get that full spread, that full sound. And then 5 and 6 are guitars. Same thing, I would pan these. Then channel 7, this is our bass guitar. And then channel 8 are the drums and any other percussive elements. And that's how it works. You can configure Ableton Live or Prime to send individual channels of audio to your mixing console, and hopefully your sound engineer will love you for this. Maybe you don't always need to send up to 8 channels, but with this TrackRig, you'll have so many options and in so many ways you can configure the audio outputs for your worship band's tracks. And then I just want to show you how easy it is to connect a MIDI device to your Ableton session through the TrackRig. So this Loop to Miss mini pedal is connected to the USB hub here, and now I can use this to trigger my Ableton tracks. So the first step to make sure this is configured with Ableton, real quick, I'm going to go to Preferences, and then I'm going to make sure that under my MIDI devices, the Loop to Miss is a remote for my inputs. So I have that selected there, and now Ableton should be able to receive those MIDI commands. So then I'm gonna go ahead and click on that locator here, and then I'm gonna hit the 1 button, and you just saw it mapped that MIDI note to that locator. And then actually, let's delete this other MIDI command we have for the play button, and I'll put this new one here, the second button on the play button there, and then I'll exit MIDI mode. And now I can, let's say we are just playing through the song, I'll just hit 1, and you'll see it's gonna skip back to the beginning of the song here. Or if I had stopped Ableton, I can actually just play it from hitting this pedal again right there. So mapping MIDI devices to Ableton Live, super easy with the TrackRig. It just functions like another USB hub. So that's really it, guys. This device was designed to be really simple, really easy to use, and it is just that. Whether you're running tracks from Ableton Live or you're running tracks from the Prime app, it'll work practically the same. And man, this like really only takes a few seconds to get these things configured. And you could find other ways in Ableton Live to maybe group your tracks when you're building out your session at home, and then when you get to the church, it's easier to route those different groups of tracks to the outputs here on the interface. So that's something I would do. We're only using a 4-channel interface currently at my church. That may change, hopefully in the near future. Hint, hint, Loop community team. Anyways, really grateful to get my hands on this guy and to just demonstrate how easy it is to use. And you guys should just head over to loopcommunity.com to pick one up for yourself. We're gonna include links below in the description. And if you want to learn how to build Ableton Live set lists the same way I do to run a click, tracks, and automate lyrics and lights in worship, check out my free Ableton Live masterclass designed specifically for worship leaders. I'll include the link here on the video or down below in the description. So sign up now. It's a 60-minute long, pretty in-depth training, and I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, hit that thumbs up button and share it with your friends in ministry. You can check out some related videos right over here, and don't forget to subscribe to the Churchfront channel so you don't miss out on any of our latest content to help you grow yourself and grow your worship ministry.